along with the other 4 members of Virtually Verbal's management team, I will be answering 4 questions about myself that can better help you understand who I am and also who Virtually Verbal is. So let's get started.
Hey guys, I'm Aria, and today I'm going to be answering some questions, so here we go. Given that you are familiar with German, French, Spanish, and English, is it sometimes hard to differentiate each language? Definitely yes. There have been times where I've answered a question in a different language than I was supposed to answer in, mainly because especially French and Spanish are so similar to each other that it is very easy to mix up the language. But that also makes it easier to learn since I learned French first, so learning Spanish later was very easy. The beaches or the mountains? This is a hard one. I would definitely choose the beaches because I love summer weather. Not that I dislike winter, but in summer you have way more things to do and opportunities to do things, and in winter I feel like I'm very restricted to stay in the house, and I love the beach. Why did you reach out to the other co-founders at the beginning of this initiative? Did you reach out to anyone else? No, I did not reach out to anyone else. And I mainly reached out to these people just because they were my friends and I had known them for quite a while. And I knew they were learning a language at school, so I wanted some differentiation in the languages since I was going to be teaching German and I needed Spanish and French as well. So I reached out to Ellen and Irini to tutor Spanish and French, and Shinya as our administrative since I knew she had amazing organization skills. How did you come about learning German? Does your family speak it, or did you find an interest in it and start taking classes? My family does not speak German. My mom did learn German briefly, so I was initially interested in it just because of her. And my mom's friend teaches German. She's very fluent in it, so it was very easy for me to find a teacher and become comfortable with learning the language since I knew my mom's friend. And that's how I came about learning German. Okay, last question. What makes you smile the most? This is a pretty broad question, so I'm gonna interpret it my way. I think what makes me smile the most is nature and just getting a very amazing view from like a top of a hill or something. In quarantine, I started bike riding and going on hikes pretty frequently, and that's one of my new favorite things to do recently, so I would definitely say a good view after you've done a long bike ride. Alright, those are all of my questions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tanishka Pate, and I'm a French tutor at Virtually Verbal, and I'm a marketing director at Virtually Verbal. So I'll be answering a few questions today. First one, baking is your thing. Have you made French pastries before? If so, how do you think baking French pastries contributes to your overall understanding of the language? Okay, so I do bake French pastries. Some of them are like macarons and choux pastry and puff pastry and eclairs and all these different things. And yes, I do believe it helps me get better at French because most of these recipes for the French pastries are in French, or I get them from French articles. And usually I just try to read it through with like what I have in my vocabulary, and if I don't know what the words are, I usually try to translate it to English. But baking French pastries makes me more interested to learn more about the French language as well. Okay, so dogs or cats? Okay, so I prefer cats, but I'm allergic to cats, so by default it just goes to dogs. Okay. You're in 8th grade but already in your 3rd year of learning French. What enticed you to start learning French? And do you take French at school, or are you already ahead of what your school offers? So, I started taking French mostly because of baking and cooking, and I just like got interested in all these French recipes, and it was like something that I really wanted to do. And I don't take French at school because it's not an offered course yet, so I'm taking it outside of school, but I do wish to continue it in high school. Okay, what is your favorite French word? What does it mean? My favorite French word is fatigué, which just means tired, but I feel like you can use that word in such a dramatic way where it makes everything so funny. Yeah, that's it. And then French was one of the more popular languages students signed up for, along with German. Can it be difficult to remember all of your students? Do you remember all of their names after they have successfully completed and graduated from the course? I remembered most of their names, mostly because during the classes, you create such a good connection with the teacher and student because this is mostly like peer-to-peer learning. And I feel like it's really nice that like I can teach my students and then we can all like connect in some way. And yeah, I usually just remember them because it's a really good experience we had together.
Hi, I'm Marini Bargava. I'm a co-founder and the website developer here at Virtually Verbal. My first question is coffee or tea? And this is a really hard question because I am a coffee drinker and a tea drinker, and it really depends what kind of mood I'm in, whether I'll be drinking coffee or tea. I usually have coffee in the morning, not because it helps wake me up, mostly because I like the taste of coffee. And when I am studying, that's usually when I move to tea. And my favorite tea is green tea. I drink that all day. I am obsessed. So if I had to choose coffee or tea, I think I would choose tea, mostly because there are so many different flavors to match your moods. All right, our second question is, have you ever been to France? If so, what was your favorite aspect about it? If not, do you have any plans to go in the future, and what would you like to see there? I did go to France the summer before my 8th grade. So it was the summer before I started taking French. So I did not know any French while I went, but I think it motivated me to take French and really gave me that love of the language, which was so helpful when you're studying something. It can be really boring to study a subject when you don't really enjoy it. And I think the reason that I enjoy French and learning French so much now is because I did visit France before I started learning. My favorite aspect about going to France, the culture. I think that French culture is so much different than American culture. In Europe, people really enjoy their lives. And I know that sounds really vague, but it's true. In America, there's this culture about productivity and always trying to achieve things and working hard and not really taking time to understand or really live your life and enjoy it. But in France, it's completely different. I mean, people work hard, of course, but they aren't obsessed with their work. And when you go to coffee shops, people are really enjoying their coffee, taking it slow, really enjoying life. And I think that was my favorite aspect about France, was learning that laid-back culture. All right, my next question is, describe Virtually Verbal with 3 adjectives. I think creative. We're a group of high school students, and even though not a lot of us are naturally creative, I think that we're such a good group because we can bounce ideas off of each other and we end up with some really creative outcomes. We find so many solutions to different problems which go on behind the scenes, so you guys might not know about it, but I think that whenever there's a problem that comes up, because of our differences in our management team, we usually come up with really creative outcomes. Second adjective will be fast growing. I think a lot of us did not expect Virtually Verbal to grow this fast. We have so many students now. We have 7 languages now. We started out with 3. And none of us expected this to happen. So fast growing is definitely the second adjective. The third adjective, I would say passionate. A lot of our tutors are doing this for free. We don't get paid for this kind of work. And even though we're not getting paid, or most of us aren't getting service hours, a lot of our tutors are really passionate about their languages, and you can tell how much time and effort they put into virtually verbal. And yeah, our tutors are really passionate. I think that's a good adjective for virtually verbal. All right, and my last question is, what is it like to be the website developer? Was it a daunting task, or were you already familiar with that field? So I'm generally a tech kind of person. I like figuring things out, doing with like technology and stuff, but I did not have any experience with website developing. I had no experience whatsoever, so it was definitely a daunting task. I had only done website stuff with like Google Sites where you don't really have to develop, you just like design. So web developing was definitely new to me. So I had to watch a lot of YouTube tutorials and really pick it up. I would say it wasn't that bad once I understood the basics, and now that I've become familiar with it, I would say it's really fun because it's really cool to see an idea materialize and become something that other people look at and appreciate. I think, I think it's definitely a rewarding experience, and I would encourage people who think, oh, I couldn't do that, I'm not good at website developing, or I'm not good at tech stuff, or I could never do anything like that. I would definitely encourage you to try because it's definitely easier than you think, and it's such a rewarding experience.
Hi, my name is Shania Lee, and I am the coordinator and co-founder here at Virtually Verbal. Today, I'm gonna start by answering questions. I haven't read these questions before. My first question is, what is the goal you have for Virtually Verbal in the future? So my biggest goal for Virtually Verbal is to expand our family, and so we'll have more tutors and more students, and overall we'll just have a bigger community that is more intelligent and smarter because they know this extra language. And yeah, the second question is, you are Virtually Verbal's only coordinator on the team. What language course would you most want to take and why? I guess I would want to most take Hindi classes because most Native American speakers don't usually take Hindi, and German, French, Spanish are more common. So it's a very interesting language, and I would really want to learn it. Okay, third question. Given that you handle much of the logistical aspects of Virtually Verbal, and you are the primary keeper of Virtually Verbal's emails, how would you rate your typing skills? Okay, so I must confess that most of my emails are already pre-written, but many other ones that come up, like rescheduling and troubleshooting, most of them I hand type. So I guess my typing skills they're okay. This questionnaire requests me for a typing test, so I'm gonna search that up right now. Well, that's the first one, so let's see. So I'm gonna start now. So 70 words per minute. I'd say it's decent, but not the best. Accuracy 98. And adjusted speed. So as you can see, my typing skills are somewhat okay. I think I still need to improve on them, especially with the numbers, but that's a topic for another day. The next question is, what would you do if you had to travel to a country where its people do not know English and you do not know their language? Well, assuming that my phone had data, I would probably bring up Google Translate. That's my savior. And I would probably use the voice feature. Okay, that's it for today. Bye.
So the very first question that we'll be starting off with is, what language do I think in? And my answer to this would be, well, for some context, I can speak English, I know bits of Korean and some phrases, I can essentially get by with my Korean, and I also am taking Spanish at school, which is what I tutor in at Virtually Verbal. So my answer would be that I mainly think in English. Sometimes I will have Korean fragments or phrases in my head that just kind of emulate what I'm feeling when I can't exactly express it in English. And I will also start thinking about Spanish words, forming basic sentences while I'm in the middle of my swim practice. Sometimes when I'm doing laps, I just get kind of bored. I just start coming up with very basic Spanish sentences, like I like to eat hamburgers, stuff of the sort. So my short answer, English with bits of both the languages I am learning / taking. The second question is, how did the name Virtually Verbal come to be? So I think this is actually a pretty funny story. I believe it was me and Arya, our founder, and also Shinya, the coordinator, and we were essentially playing an online game that kind of has the same rules as Sorry, but instead we can play it electronically and across multiple devices. So we were just talking about the startup of Virtually Verbal, which at the moment was not formally known as Virtually Verbal, such as we were going through our logo, the website, and what our name would actually be. And I was coming up with pretty horrible names, if I'm being honest. Like, I guess suggested the name Language Explorer, some other very basic ideas, and then we were feeling a bit down, I guess, just because we couldn't come up with a name, and if we didn't come up with a name, we couldn't come up with the logo or the website. And so Shinya, out of the blue, she came up with Virtually Verbal, and that's what stuck with us just because of how unique it was, and also just how it also just captured the essence of who we are. The third question for me is, if a genie granted you 3 wishes, what would they be? I would have to say that my first wish would be that everyone could find a state of eternal bliss where they could find prosperity and happiness and peace. I know that's a bit odd for a first wish, but I really do hope that would happen. The second wish would be, I hope that everyone has someone that supports them, that they can lean on, that honestly just shows them kindness, because I think that more people need to know just how much they are worth and just how much people care about them. I just think that there should be more kind people in the world today. These are a bit deep, I guess. The last wish would be to wish the genie for 1 million more wishes, because honestly, having 3 wishes and a genie just seems too little. So those would be my 3 wishes. Finally, what component of learning Spanish do you think is most difficult? Speaking, listening, reading, or writing? I would have to say that I think speaking is the most difficult, just because of how many Spanish words do look like their English counterword, but they are pronounced differently, and the accents may be in different places. So whenever I look at those words, I always have a tendency to want to say them like how I would say them in English. So I think that is a bit tricky to master sometimes. But that is the end of my 4 questions. I want to thank you all, and thank you. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please email us at info@virtuallyverbal.com or ask them in the comments below. Happy learning!